What was it that Cartier-Bresson said? Your first 10,000 photographs are your worst. Henri was always one for an overly dramatic statement now and again, and something which has a little bit of ambiguity. But in this case, it kind of made sense what he actually suggested. I believe he was referring to the time that is needed for a photographer to learn the craft of photography, to put in the hours to gain the experience, to practice, and to develop visual literacy. Practice and experience are absolutely crucial to good photography, and while I have a lot of experience, nearly 40 years worth, I still have to practice. And today I'm going to show you how and why. In 2018, we were in the south of France. We were staying in a little place called Pézenas, and we were there for a friend's wedding. And we decided that we would spend a few days in this little town so that we could go and take some photographs. We'd been there, I guess we'd been there 2 or 3 days. And then one afternoon, I decided that I was going to ditch my normal 35mm lens, which I was using at the time. 35 was always my main length back then. And I decided that I was going to shoot with a 28mm lens. To this day, I have no idea why I did this. So anyway, I'm walking through town. I've got this 28mm on my camera, totally unfamiliar with this lens. And in front of me, there was this scene. There was a girl sat on a stall, and there were people in the middle ground chatting, and there was a girl in the background that just kind of brought the whole composition together. And I got goosebumps. I've never really felt that too many times throughout my career, actually, with a photograph when it presents itself to me like this. So I bring the camera up to my eye and suddenly realise I'm too far away. I've got a 28mm. I'm not used to this 28mm. I'm standing too far away. I still think I've got a longer lens on. So I've got to move forward. So I'm rushing forward into this scene and trying with the camera up to my eye, trying to make sure all the elements still work okay within the 28mm frame. And I pressed the shutter. I thought, that's it. That's my photograph. So I walk down the street, look on the back of the camera, and the photograph's blurred. My God, that feeling of disappointment when I realised what I'd done, it just doesn't go away. It doesn't go away even today. In my haste to get the photograph, I didn't recheck my settings. Shutter speed was way too low. I got blur. With a 35mm, it would have been absolutely spot on. I did the most stupid thing that I possibly could do as a photographer. I decided to go with a new lens, which I hadn't really used before, without even practicing with it. I guess you could call it overconfidence. I call it stupidity. So I learned a big lesson that day. From that moment on, after that disappointment, I decided that whenever I go to a new place now, I'm not going to be rusty. If I change anything, I'm going to practice until that thing which I've changed becomes second nature to me. Late last year, I decided that I wanted to spend more time shooting with a 50mm lens. Now, while it's winter time over here in the UK, where we're just coming into spring now, I've been putting the hours in with the 50mm. Now, obviously practice is different for different people, but the way that I do it is I like to go and spend a couple of hours going out for a walk by myself, or going out for a walk with Sarah and the dog, or whatever it is, just to go out and just practice with no pressure. It's important that there's no pressure involved. So if I'm going out with a dog, I'm not going out to take photographs. That's my mindset. You know, it's not a serious photographic situation, so I can just practice. And with the things that I've been practicing since the turn of the year have been increasing the speed of use, which is really important to me. I'm a photographer that likes to work quickly and react. When you shoot from the hip, it's quite easy to do this, especially with a wide angle. With a 50mm, it's all about speed. It's all about seeing a photograph, bringing the camera to your eye, pressing the shutter and moving on. To do this, to increase this speed, I've been working with zone focusing and distances. It's basically a case of setting the distance scale to either 5 meters or 10 meters, because these are the most common distances that I find myself shooting at with the 50mm. And then the aperture is set to either f8 or f11 to give me enough depth of field to get everything that I want in focus. So if something moves out of the plane of focus a little bit, it doesn't really matter, because the depth of field is going to cover that. And this really speeds up the use of the 50mm lens. Fred Herzog, Modern Colour. Now, I've been asked a few times about this book, what I think about this book. So this is a bit of a request, this video. Pretty much everyone with a photography YouTube channel that does a book review has featured this book. It's easy on the eye. Okay, the pictures are really easy on the eye. They're not hard to understand, and the photographs have a real sense of nostalgia, not unlike that other YouTuber favorite, Saul, Leiter. When Leiter and Herzog were shooting color back in the 50s and 60s, color wasn't considered to be a serious photographic medium. It certainly wasn't a fine art medium. I honestly believe this is why Herzog remained largely unnoticed until much later in his life. Now, a lot of the images in this book are truly exceptional. Even if we leave the nostalgia and the colour palettes he had at his disposal to one side, you know, his use of colour is exceptional. His subject matter on the street is always interesting and diverse, and he's a guy after my own heart when it comes to shooting. He liked to shoot from the hip as well as from the eye level, and he liked to experiment with different focal lengths, which you can clearly see through the pages of the book. Now, I love the printing in this book. The quality of the printing is fantastic. The binding is very good. It's been very well put together. And it even comes with the obligatory arty word salad introduction that comes with every retrospective. In fairness, though, if you do take the time to read those introductions, they do give a little bit of an insight into the way that Herzog thought and the way that he actually photographed. What I don't like about this book, as a photographer who collects photo books and enjoys photo books, not just for the photographs in them, but also for the way that the book has been put together, you know, the design of the book, the way the book flows and so on. There are just too many nondescript images in here. Random photographs which look like they were added to help the flow of the book rather than being good pictures in their own right. If we look at this one here, this is the main barbershop picture, which is the one that appears on the cover. The first image has the mood, it has the lighting, it has the composition, it has the figure in the right place, and it's a great photograph. But then they put this photograph next to it. It's not anywhere near as good as the other photographs, so why bother putting it in? I just don't understand why they've done this. It just diminishes the first shot. And also, when you actually look through the book, you see a bunch of black and white images in there. Now, if you're going to call a book early colour, why have you got black and white in there? The other thing that I can't get my head around is there are lots of random photographs of streets and buildings. It's almost like somebody tried to paint Herzog as a colorist Walker Evans. That doesn't work for me. They could have taken 30 to 40% of these photographs out and made a much, much better book. But having said this, this is still the best representation of Herzog's work as a street photographer. For that reason alone, you know, I would recommend you get it. Now, somebody messaged me, he was on the fence over getting this book or a Saul Leiter book. I would always get the Herzog book because for me, Herzog is a street photographer. Okay, Herzog's images come from the eye of a street photographer, you know, whereas Leiter's images come from the eye of a painter. And he's looking for things which are abstract, and he's looking for things which are more design-led, I guess, in terms of his compositions and what he's looking for and so on. So if you're on the fence, Leiter or Herzog, I mean, obviously get both, but if you had to choose one, I would always go for this one. And this remains the definitive book of Fred Herzog's work, even if there's too much of it in there for me. So yeah, I recommend this one. I'll leave a link in the description below to this book so you can have a look at it in more detail. Thanks for watching. We will have links to all the good stuff down in the description, our zines, our workshops, and also the SilverChrome profiles that we use on all of our black and white pictures. If you have any comments at all on anything that I've covered in this video, please let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.